Hello everyone, welcome to our live coaching call. My name is Amber. I think we have a few new people who have joined us this evening for the first time. I just wanted to welcome you everybody aboard, and I'll just dive straight into what we're going to do tonight. This is what I've got planned for you because I think there are a lot of people who are still struggling with how to determine their project's GRV, how to find out what they're going to sell everything for, and go from there. So today we are going to determine your project's GRV, and I'll show you how I do that and conduct preliminary due diligence before you take the next step. So making sure that you're profitable long before you've spent a cent on the project. So what are we going to do? We are going to learn today the most important tool you can use to conduct spatial analysis, how to analyze data so it makes sense to you and helps with decision making. We're going to go through how to compare and actually this is contrast. Compare and contrast various properties to extract valuable information that helps you determine the end value of what you are planning on developing. And I'm going to show you the secret weapon that you already have, but I know that you're not using it. And bonus, I will do a quick real scenario feasibility of what I would do on a project. So let's dive into it. So what I wanted to show you was that this tool here is going to be your best friend, and what you need to do is go on to this URL. If you haven't done that, I think if you just type that in and press enter, you will be at that. So it's google.com/maps/d/u/0. So if you go there, this is basically their map engine, and you can customize this map and create stuff on it, plot data online on the map, and see how you go. So let's go straight into it. So what we're doing here is I've got this data for Ringwood because I've got two mentoring students in Victoria, and I've just recommended them going to Ringwood. So we did some. I pulled out this data from basically a real estate investor that I've got access to, and all this data. What I want to do with this data is actually first make sense of what it is, and the second thing that I want to do is be able to plot this data online so that people can see. Not people, actually myself. I can see it and compare different townhouses, units, apartments, whatever, and be able to make an informed decision. And then when I'm actually looking for a property, I can actually put in the address for that property that I'm researching, and then look around spatially what it looks like and what other properties around that my target property are selling for. So that's what my plan is for this. So if you look around, it's pretty good. So the first thing, actually the blue columns, they don't come, I actually add them and create them based on the columns that we've got here. So what the data that I get from this source is basically address. It comes as an event, which is private 3D sold. How was it sold? I don't really care how was it sold. Usually I want to find out if it's sold for an auction or not. But it's not something that this data doesn't really tell me much. So I'm just gonna move this column and put it right at the back so that I know what it looks like. It's something that it's not useful to me immediately, and I'll just push it back. So is the agent. I don't really care who sold it, because that doesn't help me with my decision-making process, or as to what I can sell them for, or what something in the area has sold for. So the second column that I get is price. And another column that I get is date, but I also get these dates, which is first advertised date and also the first advertised price. Now, why is that important? That's important because of two reasons. First, I usually find out if something sold for, what did it sell for, and what did the vendor discount it at. So say for example, in this scenario, the vendor actually discounted the price by 10 grand. Um, Sorry, this in this scenario it actually sold above the value because the formula was set up that to find out the discount. So every time it comes in bracket, it actually means that it actually sold for more than what it was advertised at. And the reason that's happening in this area is because everybody is buying in this area. So if something was to come in a positive like this, which was 7, which basically means that it was discounted. So if you look at here, it came on the market at 849,000 and it was sold for 842,000, which is 7. So what this is basically telling me is that in this area everybody's willing to pay a little bit more than what the listing price was. But at the same time, I've got to make sure that I'm looking at some current sales, which is I want to be looking at some data which is early 2016 or at best late 2015. So I can just put a normal filter on something like this, which is basically Command F. Whoops. So I can go to Window and just turn this. If you want to just press Command Shift F, or just go to Data Filter, and it filters everything for it. The way I like it is because I can actually then put this in alphabetical order, and the alphabetical order works. We've got townhouses, we've got units, we've got other. I don't know what other is, and usually all the other stuff is usually 0, so we don't know what this is. This could be retail shops, this could be something else that is not a proper house or a residential property. So we've got units, we've got townhouses, and we've got houses. So that's the main unit, that's the main stuff that I need. So if I've got commercial here, I'm just gonna click on it and I'm gonna delete it because I don't need this. And the more data that I've got on the map, the more complicated it actually gets. So I'm gonna delete this industrial portion as well. And I'm also actually going to go down, and everything that's 0 that doesn't really tell me anything for land, and I'll go down up to other residential, right click on it and just delete this data because that data will just take space on the map. So I will also go ahead and delete the event and results type because that's not the data that I actually want plotted on the I don't want this data actually plotted on the map. So actually, before I started, I actually forgot to ask everybody, can everybody hear me? If somebody could put something in the chat, that'll be great. Can everybody hear me? And everything is going good? Just 1 second. Can everyone hear me? Hello? Hello? I'm sorry, I haven't actually received a response on anybody, and I'm not sure if everybody can hear me and see my screen. Can somebody text me or somebody type in the chat message if they can hear me and they can see the screen? And why is this happening now? Okay. Yeah, I think most of the people are actually connected with the mic. So if I unmute one of you, can somebody just say something? Ruth, I'm gonna unmute you and see if you can say something. Hello?
Hi Amber, yes we can hear you. You
Okay.
just can't see what we're typing.
Yeah, but somehow nothing's coming in my chat message.
Yeah, we're typing into the text box but it's not coming through to you.
Okay. All right. So if everybody can hear me, that's fantastic. And great. Okay. Ruth. I'm gonna unmute you again, and towards the end, what I'll do is I'll unmute everybody, and everybody can say hello to everybody, if possible, and but one by one, and I'll just finish the webinar first. So I'm just going to unmute you, Ruth.
Okay.
Great. Thanks. Okay, great. Everyone can hear me, so I can keep going. So what I basically did was I got rid of all the data that I didn't need. And the reason for that is eventually what I want to do is get here. I want my map to actually, whoops, where did my maps go? Not good. Give me 1 second because this was all set up. And for some reason it's just gone away. Okay, let's open that. So what I'm trying to do is basically filter data out so that the data actually makes sense to me, and then be able to plot all this data online on a map. And the reason I do that is so that I can compare and contrast it with the property that I'm actually researching. So back to this data part. Now over here I've got address, price. I know what the vendor discount is. So this actually works kind of in a negative way because I was trying to figure out what the discount was. So I put the formula opposite. So anything that's in red and in bracket at the moment, that means is the people paid more for it. So what I also want to be able to figure out is what the days on the market is. And the way I've done that is, again, the same way. I've actually subtracted the date it was first advertised to the date it was actually sold. So if you look at this, from 12th of May 2015, that's when 106 One Turner Road was advertised, but it actually sold on 24th March 2016, 317 days later. And the reason for that is I know what this property is because I developed 79 One Turner Road and we built townhouses on them. And this property was just up the road from us, and they were asking 3.8 million at the time. I didn't want to buy that, and they've been on the market for a very long time. Even this date is incorrect because I know this block. This block is a huge block, and you can put maybe 16 townhouses or 14 townhouses, something like that, on this. So it actually sold more than what they were asking, which is pretty good. At the time, it was beyond my reach. So it's also 3,258 square meters over here. So these are the things that I want to know. I also want to know what the features were. So if I'm looking at a townhouse, I'll go back, filter it, and just scroll down and go straight to townhouses. So I know that they had a courtyard, they had a balcony, air conditioning, courtyard heating, which doesn't really tell me much. But something like this told me that they had an alarm, ensuite, garage heating, walk-in robe. So there's a little bit more details. If I'm trying to compare some stuff for townhouses, I know what to compare, some features to look at. So this is what I've got. And all I'm going to do is just put a $sign against this so that it looks a little bit good when it's imported. And I'm going to get rid of the filtering, and I'm just going to go File, Save. It is saved as an Excel file. This is the data from Ringwood. There's a Ringwood suburb in the east of Melbourne. So that's what this is. I really like that suburb. I've done one development there in 2013. I would love to do another one there because the whole area is just changed. So I'm just going to close this file, and I'm going to go back to my my map here. So when you actually go to that URL, like this URL over here, all you have to do is click create a new map. And when you click that, actually I'll start from scratch so you guys know where we are at. So I just want to make sure that I am in my right account. Sorry, I've got too many Gmail and other email addresses for different companies. So all I did was click on create new map, and it turns up like this. So all I do is click here and I select Ringwood, call it test, call it 2416. The reason I try and put a date on it is because Google at this stage doesn't allow you to delete your maps once they're created, which is a pain because then you've got a whole list of maps that just keep adding on. So it's actually best, because I've had Ringwood from 2013, I've had Ringwood every time I've looked at it, and the data actually is different. So I try and put a date on it, and you can add a description if you want. I don't, and you click save. So now you've got that, and then you've got this layer over here that says untitled layer. Now you've got add layer, you've got share. You can actually share this once you created it. If you've got a partner in the same deal, you can create this data and just email it to everybody, and they can look at it, and if you give them rights to edit it, they can edit it as well, or they can add more data to it as well. So if there are two guys looking for a project together, I would recommend that you do that. So what do? I click on import because I've already got, and it is as simple as dragging and dropping the file that I was just playing with in Excel. So all I'm going to do is, if you see, I've got ringwood.xls on my file. I just bring it here, and this dotted box gets activated, and I just drop it. So the moment I drop it, it's going to ask me choose columns to position your place marks. So I want to pick up the address column, because that's how they're going to put the place mark on the map, because it's looking for that address. And I click on continue. And then the next thing that I want it to say as a title for those markers is actually the price. You can actually select the type, which will tell you whether it's a townhouse or whether it's a unit and so on. I like to put price because then there's a little bit more details showing on the map for me. And you click on finish, and voila. Give it 2 seconds, and this data will get populated on the map. So I'm just going to give it 2 seconds, and it should be fine. There we go. So here's the data. Now if you look at this section here, it says uniform style. What I want to do is click on this, click over here and select type, because that way it actually filters everything out and shows me houses, units, and townhouses in separate colors. And that's the reason I deleted the commercial and the land and any other kind of category that was available in that data. So it's telling me one row couldn't be shown on the map, fix errors highlighted red in the data. I can open it and look at what it was. It was this. The reason it couldn't, because it's like so you've got 5 and it's like 2.10 whatever that data was. So I'm just going to delete that. So that'll just tell me that this is what it was, and I close it and all is good. So we've got houses, townhouses, and so on. Now this is the sold data. This is the data that tells me that these are the properties that were sold. So I know that this is, and you can change the colors on them if you wanted to. I don't, because I quickly want to find out as much details about it as possible. So you can rename this layer, and you can come here and set labels on them. And as a label, I can set as price. So as you see, I'll just zoom in a little bit so you can see that. And I like to change the base map to this, so I know what it, so I get a feel of the area. And it's telling me the 650, 780, got 790, and I go back and play with it again. I can select the color changes from here. You can have a play with it, whatever way you want to present your data. Usually what I do is I get two sets of data. One data tells me that it is we've got sales data. So this data was all sold properties in the last 6 months. I could also get the data which says on sale right now. So that is also good. So usually I would have two layers. So if I'm so say for example, if you look at this, this is something that I put together a very long time ago when I did the project in Brisbane, in Ringwood. So all I do is over here I've got Ringwood comparable sales, and I had actually sent a link of this map to the valuer. Why? Because I want him to see where 79 Von Turner Road was. This is what we developed, so that he can actually basically see what's around it and what should the valuation of those would be when you do them. So if you can see, this was the construction project. I used to work here. We had a shed here, and I used to stay in there, and we built these two townhouses here. This was just to get the construction company going. We had no insurance at the time. Like, we were only given like a $500,000 insurance. We are almost at about 3 million now, and we had to start and show them that we can build and deliver the project. So this project was built by myself and the builder Sam that I work with, and day in day out we used to just sit here in the side office and build them. So that's what it was. So let's go back to the one that we've just created. So what we want to do is, if we find something, let's say we go to realestate.com.au and I want to buy something, I click on search, and it will tell me what's available. So it's 1620 square meter. It's telling me it's 30, 41, 43. So I'm just going to copy this address. So 43, and I will go back to the map that I was working with, and I'm going to go add another layer, because I don't want this thing to get mixed up with the data that I've just plotted. And somehow my internet is going a little bit slow. I'm just going to call it target property. Click on save. And what I'm going to do, I just want to make sure that I am actually on target property, on that layer. So see how if I click here, there's a little blue line over here that tells me that at the moment I'm on this layer. But if I click here, the blue line jumps on the left side. So I know that I'm on this layer, and that's when I'll paste the address that I'm looking for, select what Google's suggesting, so I know that this property is here. So if I click on this and I go add to maps, it automatically adds it as a red dot, and you can change the color of the dot to whatever color you like, and it adds it there. And now what I can do is I can look at the data. Whoops, I keep confusing myself. I can look at what's selling right next to this, and unfortunately these people haven't given a price on this. It would have been really good to find out what the price was. So all I want to do is I want to go in here, but it's good in the sense that if I want to put townhouses on this project, I can see what the townhouses right next to it are selling for. So if I just hover my now this is a unit that was sold. Days on the market, it was on days on the market for about 20 days, I think, and it was a 3-bedroom unit, and it had one parking. Land size was only 145. It was first advertised was 410, and it was sold for 481. So when there wasn't actually a vendor discount, it sold for 71 grand more than what they asked for. But it's a very small size, can't be the main one. But if I ever wanted to see what it looked like, I'd again copy this. I would then go back to this website. Now you already have all of this data. So the reason I'm showing this to you, because a lot of people I see that they don't go back and they don't go watch the videos of the stuff that's already covered. So all these web resources are under here, so you can go and have a look at it. So what I do is I come back and I paste this site and see what it actually looked like, so that it gives me a good idea of whether or not it was a brand new site or it was an old property that was sold. So it gives me a good idea, okay, that was an old townhouse or a unit that was sold. Looks like the kitchen was renovated, or but it looks really old if you can tell by the design from it. So it wasn't a brand new house. So it was an old unit sold for 481 in October 2015, which is not that far away. So all of what I want to find out is I want to look at more townhouses. So let's say a town, that's my target property. So if I was to put something here, my good comparable for a townhouse would be this property here. So if a 1/7 Bolana Street, Ringwood, and it's a 3-bedroom townhouse, 2 bath, 1 parking, land size was 271. It was first advertised on 7th of November 2015, and we don't have the sale date as such. All it says is that sale date was also 7 November 2015. So and it sold for 760. So obviously we don't have a lot of data, but we do know that it sold for 760. Now I want to see what it looked like. So again, I will copy this and go back here and paste it and press enter, and it'll tell me what it looked like. So now I have a much better comparable. Now again, this was an old townhouse. That's what it looks like, or old townhouse or old unit. So 779, they're saying it was 779. Now what I want to find out that wasn't a townhouse, it was actually a full house. So that data that we got said that it was a townhouse, but it's actually not a townhouse. Another thing you can do is just to look at this. It is actually a townhouse. If you see, it's right in the center here. Maybe they're using an old photo. So what we want to do is get a feel of what we are developing or what we are about to buy, and see what's around it. Now there's no way for me to actually get that street view using the map engine. So for that, I would want to copy paste that. Whoops. I would want to copy paste that over here. Go through the normal Google Maps, and I use a little man over here, and I'll put the man over there so I can get a feel for that's when it was building. So a brand new townhouse. So it looks like a brand new townhouse because obviously this photo was, it says that the image capture happened on September 2015 at the bottom right hand side. However, what I want to know is that, okay, can I base my pre-sales or can I base my value of the townhouses that I'm going to develop on this as a comparable? Now we've got land size at 271 square meters, 3-bedroom, 2 bath, and 1 parking. Are you doing 1 parking, or are you going to do 2 parking in that area? So this looks really good. So if I come back, this was my target site that's on the market, and if I can put 4 townhouses or 6 townhouses depending upon what the size is, so it's 1620, I would imagine that you could put at least 7 or 8, very easy. Not 7 or 8, but at least six, maybe 7, depending on the design. So if you go back to back, 1 2 3 1 2 3 and 1 in the center somehow, or maybe 6 3-bedders and 2 2-bedders, and then you've got a driveway for all these townhouses right through the center of the property. It would just depend upon the design. So this is going into auction because if you look at the boom app for Ringwood, this is all Ringwood dwelling type units. Those who don't know, this website is also covered in the resources, and you can watch the video. So if you look at days on the market is only 59, so about 60 days. An auction clearance rate last month was still 80%, so it's still going strong. Vendor discounting is only 2%. Rental yield is 3.71. Stock on the market is very less, 0.3. That means not a lot of units are on the market at this stage. And online search interest is about 294, which is pretty good. And vacancy rate is about 1.68. Anything under 2% vacancy rate is pretty good. That means the properties aren't sitting vacant. And in this area, they won't sit vacant. And the reason for that is that there's a lot of development going on there. There's upgrading the East Lane shopping center that's there and so on. And the proportion of renters is again 35%. I would say it's a little bit higher. I usually prefer this to be about 30%, but this is starting to edge just a little bit over 35%. But under 40% should be still okay, but I would really like it to be 30%. The reason it's going to 35, I think at this stage, is because a lot of people wanna be in this area. Actually, I go and watch movies in this area because the movie theater close to where I live is still undergoing renovations and everything. And then the next area to look at would be Chatston, because Chatston Shopping Center is undergoing major redevelopment. So this is what I look at, and that's how I plot all this data online to compare and contrast. So let's look at another one. Let's filter this a little bit. So what I want to look at is 1,000 square meter of land for myself if I want to do something. And property type, I just want to look at land. So 1,000 square meter, and I'll search again. So I get this area, which is about 2,073 square meters. Also in Ringwood, let's just copy paste this and go back to, I'm gonna close the old data that I had. Whoa. I'm sorry, I think I closed the tab accidentally. So again, I'm on that layer, and I'm just gonna copy paste here, hit enter. So this is around the other side of the Eastland Shopping Center. I think this is Eastland Shopping Center, isn't it? Yeah, this is Eastland Shopping Center right here, which is very close, good location. M3. This is all the Monash Freeway. This is the East Link. So that's where this is at, and I want to add this to my target property. So if I want to look at what are the townhouses selling for in the area, if you look at here, it's 290. So you've got this is a house. This wasn't a townhouse. Townhouse is okay. 673. We've got days on the market about 40. Sold over 43,000 from the asking price. So they were asking 630. It went for 673. They were asking for 430, sold for 490. This looks like an old one. Doesn't look like a brand new one. I think the brand new townhouse is close to the $670,000 dollar mark in this area. So if I was to get a permit, and it looks like a really good flat side. In fact, actually, I might. The problem is that they want to put everything in auction. Everything goes into auction, and I don't have the money for to go and bid at auction. I like making deals though. So this is, as you can see, this is Eastland right here, just up the road from there, and plain. And looking at these two, I can put 6 on them. 6 is no problem because it's got a wider frontage too. So this is all I do when I want to really find out what's selling in that area and what is it selling at, because that determines what I will sell them for and what I can put on them before I get into the development. So I'm doing all of this just sitting behind the computer, not spending a lot of time. Here's another thing that I do. I go to realestate.com.au. We'll just go back and refresh all of that, and I will click on invest, and I will click on Victoria, and I will select so say for example I was going to do 3-bedroom units, 3-bedroom townhouses there, so obviously there's no button for townhouses. So I just select 3-bedroom units, and I'm gonna select Ringwood, and that's where we are at. So I just hover my mouse over this, and it tells me that the annual growth has been 3%. Rental yield is about 3.6. Median rent is about 410, and the median price is about 600k. So 600k is median, which means that there are more expensive properties there, and I know that for sure because in Ringwood North there are $1 million houses there because they are on a hill and they overlook the Eastland Shopping Center, and it's actually pretty good. So so that's what I want to do. So what I do is I come back down here and I look at this graph, and you have this tool as well in your capital growth calculator. I'll go back and bring these two here. So what I want to do here is figure out, it's already telling me the median sale price for 3-bedroom units in Ringwood in Victoria last year was 600 based on 37 home sales, which is good. That means 37 townhouses were sold in that area compared to the same period 5 years ago. So this is 5 years ago, and 3-bedroom units have increased 16.1%, which equates to a compound annual growth rate of 3%. So usually I can get this data from here, or I can click on this and click on this area and find out. It tells you what it is, but I want to look at what happened in the last 1 year. And the moment I click on it, you realize that ever since APRA came in, APRA announced their changes in July, and there was a spike just after that. And after that, since that time, from I think this is October, November, December, January, February, March, everything is just gone flat. That means the price, there's not been a growth in that area. So as I was telling you, that I don't expect the property prices to go down. I actually expect them to go flat. And the reason for that is whoever's actually paid more is not going to put it on the market for less, because nobody likes to take a loss. So people would be in situations where they will have to hold it for longer. Maybe holding it for longer will actually cost them a little bit more, or they might not make that much money towards the end of it when they sell it. But I don't see a lot of people panicking and throwing their properties on the market. So people will sit through it, and that's why it's just gone flat since that time. So depending upon what you are building, you would want to be able to look at this data and make the right decision. So you want to look at 10 years or what the growth has been for 10 years, because then you can extrapolate the graph over the next 10 years and see what it will look like. And you can use this calculator, the capital growth calculator, that tells you if you buy something for X price and you market today, what's the actual growth rate. Now this isn't the compound growth rate, this is just a growth rate from 360, which I got from here, and which I got in, this is 2007, and this is 2015, and this is actually 8. So in 80 years, this is just the normal growth rate, because I use a formula to calculate the growth rate based on the price, and they've got a compound annual growth rate. So this isn't compounded, this is just a straight growth rate. I don't know why this is almost double of the 3%. I don't know how these people calculate that, but the normal formula is what I've got here to be able to figure out based on the 80-year period starting from 2007 to 2015. So and it will tell you that time required to double in value in years is about 10.92. And if you want this calculator is available within your course, Understanding Capital Growth. So under these videos, this calculator is already there if you wanted to use that. So let's go to the next step of tonight's coaching call. So everybody understood what this is, and because I can't receive any questions or anything today. Okay, I can actually receive these questions now. Okay. Okay. Um, Sorry, I started reading your comments because apparently those comments actually came through now. Somehow I've had this window open for a while, but they only just popped in now. I don't know what I was doing wrong, but now I can read all your questions that you asked. But so this is what this area is. I think this area has some pretty good growth still left in it, and the reason I want to show that is if I go to boomapp.com.au and I just type Ringwood. If you look at the demand and supply growth for Ringwood Victoria units, it's 35, which is that means there's a strong demand in that area. People are still flocking to that area. And I think I've mentioned it before. When I did these two townhouses there, I did my feasibility when I started in 2013 at 580,000 for a 3-bedroom townhouse, and they were pretty small. At the time, I remember one was 16 square and the other one was 18 squares, which people from not from Victoria, 18 squares is about 167 square meters, which is small by Victorian standards. And 16 squares is about 148 square meters. So that's what I've done. By the time we sold those townhouses from 580, they sold for 630,000. So I would imagine that these townhouses, even if everything goes flat, would sell for about 650. So 650 is pretty good in that area. So if I wanted to do a feasibility on something that was selling land that was selling for 735 and you could put 4 townhouses on it, that's what I would do. I would go into this. Now you already have this. I think the last email I sent a few weeks ago saying that I had to make some changes. You guys have a copy of this. You can use it, and I can tell you how simple it is. I come in, I put in the value here. Let's say 735,000. I put that in again. 4 townhouses. I scroll down and I say, okay, I can build them for 1550, and I'll build them, and I will make them no bigger than 168. So they are going to be 322. So 3 bed, 2 bath, and 2 car. So 168 divided by 9.29. That actually gives you about. These are not very big. They're about 18 squares, and I can build them for 1550 a square meter. I put in 22 grand for demolition of an existing house on it, and I can sell them for on an average of 650,000. So that's the 4 townhouses. That's the feasibility, that what it will look like. So it looks like that I will make about 18.26% on this project. How? 6% stamp duty. A lot of people know what this is. So if I put 18 squares here, it's about 167.23, and over here I've gone just a little bit overboard. I wouldn't want to make them any bigger because then my construction costs will go up, but I still won't be able to sell them for more than 650. So I've got to seal my GRV at this area. So I've got 5% because the site hasn't got plans and permit. So if the land value was 735 as the retail value or the market value, the council I would imagine would value it at about 650. That's why I put council's land valuation, because my council contributions are actually based on council's land valuation. They are not based on the land value that I'm paying to buy that land. So because I'm putting 4 townhouses, it will be 4% of land value. So that I put 4%, and that gives me about a council contribution of about 6,500 per unit. I put 5% as for consultant allowance for a project like this, which is not bad, which is based on 5% of construction value. GST as per the margin scheme is fine. Then you've got marketing. Let's say you put 2.2. If I was to market it, I would put 1.1 because I know someone who does it for 1.1, and I would allow another 6k per unit to do all of that. Now all I want to do is come back down and calculate my finance costs. So let's say I do a settlement where I don't have to settle on it up until I've got the permit. So I will allow 3 months as a retail loan, or I could put maybe 12 months as a retail loan. So if I was to hold it for 12 months at 80% LVR at 5% interest ballpark, you could put in 4.5 at this stage, 1% finance cost when you set it up. There will be some costs. So which means that I would need about 155,000 just to settle on this thing. Then I've got private funding, which means the 155 that I've got to come up with, and also the 111,000, which is the shortfall that I need, which is not the shortfall. This is the consultants and marketing allowance. So everything, because I've got to settle on it and take it through plans and permits. So it's going to take some steam from me to be able to get it through the planning process. And my cost for that is about 111,000. So that also has a cost. And for 12 months, so about 11 grand for the whole year to hold this. If I have to borrow all of that money, or even if you have to use my line of credit, maybe I can get it for 4.5, which is fine. And this is 5%. I can also change that to 4.5. Doesn't matter. Just to have my feasibility a little bit sharper. I come down here, the bank will only lend me about 66%, and the construction loan would be a commercial loan, so let's say 6.15. If I've got good for serviceability and I can go to a bigger bank, I could even get this for 5.75 if I went to a better bank. So I can change that. My finance cost, which is to establish everything, so my construction cost, the debt on the land, construction cost or whatever, I would need another 41,000 as equity at the time to do this. Now if I go to a builder, that's what it'll cost me. So let's say I do an 8-month contract with the builder to build this thing. I'm putting in 8 months because I can build this in 8 months. I could put that in as 12 months, but then again, then my holding cost is actually going up. And if I add all my holding costs, I've got about 37,000 as my holding cost per unit, which reduces my profit to about 16.46%. And that's the whole game, that you don't want to be holding this. So this just became a 2-year project. What you want to do is because right now people wouldn't mind having longer settlements, but in a place like Ringwood, for example, where everything is on fire, everybody wants to buy something, especially smaller blocks, because the competition is more. Bigger blocks, the competition is not going to be as much. So they would usually normally anything with 2,000 square meters, you can normally have a 6-month settlement at least. So that reduces your holding cost to 6 months for the land. And if you've got a builder like me, you could build this something like this in 8 months, which reduces your cost more, brings it down to 26k, and I can go back and change that to 26,000 and enjoy 18.8. That's about 102,000 per unit. That's not a bad profit. That's a very good profit. That's about 400k in 2 years, and that's a good project. If you wanted to see what the GRV versus equity is, I always do this ratio. The reason for that is that if I look at any project and I know the GRV, let's say I've got 4 townhouses, I can sell them for 700k each, that's 2.8. What do I need? So if I got 28, I multiply that by 0.25, for example, I know that I need at least 700,000 to be able to do a $2.8 million project. Why? Because even when I've got 4 pre-sales or 2 pre-sales, for example, the banks usually push you to inject that equity at that time. So I need to know what is my exposure going to be when I get into the project up front. Not like 95% of the people who get into the project only to find out they've got the permit and they haven't got enough money to actually take it through all the way through to construction. So and that's why a lot of projects with plans and permit come on the market, because they just realize, oops, I haven't got the steam to be able to take it. Another thing I would want to do is change this to 1600. This is so that I know that on a bad day what's going to happen, what the feasibility is going to look like. I change that to 1600. Look at my feasibility, go back up, and it's gone to about 17%. What I usually do is I delete the finance cost again, because it otherwise gets into a circular motion, circular reference things, and let this formula can recalculate everything. So it's got 26. I'll go back and put 26,500 just in case. And now I know that even if my cost of construction was 1600 per square meter, I'm still making about 93 grand per unit, which isn't bad, at all. Considering that you don't have to work on this full time, it's like getting a second income without having a second job. So that's what it is. And I would recommend that if you are from Melbourne, do a project in Ringwood. Um, I Last Friday we got into a project. I got into a new project. It's a 3 townhouse project in Aspendale. I'm not very fond of doing more projects in the Bayside area, and the reason for that is it's not an area that I think that there's a lot of growth or whatever. It's a good area, Chelsea, Morialek. I've done 2 projects in Chelsea now in Bayside. This is the third one over there. I really personally would want to look for a project in Ringwood if I can, and I would recommend that to anybody. And the reason for that is it still has a fair bit of capital growth left in it, and with all this area being developed now, this is going to be a fantastic place to live in. What's happening with this now? You go further down here, you'll get to Croydon, and I see a lot of people from Croydon coming to this activity center. So I think we are almost there. And what I'm going to do is, if you raise your hand or press the hand button, I will unmute you and you can ask your question rather than just typing it. So anyone who raises their hand, there's a hand button there. I think you can press that or do something, or even ask your question, and I will unmute you and you can talk, and everybody else can hear you too. Hello? Okay, do you want me to pick on you? I can pick on you if you want to say something. Alright, I'm gonna pick on something. Okay, what is the thing didn't come in. Okay, Priyank, I'm gonna unmute you so you can ask the question. Unmute Priyank. Okay, Priyank, can you hear me? Hello? Oh, he hasn't got a mic. All right. Okay, you were going to ask me some question. Ask me a question. Just got. Craig. Okay, I'm going to unmute you, Craig. You want to say something, Craig?
Just about that circular reference you were talking about on the 2-minute Feeso. Does that bring the construction one to zero? Is that the circular reference you're talking about?
What happens is that the TDC, the costs over here that I'm pulling in over here, and the construction costs and all those things over here, it's actually a percentage calculated from TDC. And TDC is actually includes the cost of finance. So that's why the finance cost I can't actually say equal to this cell reference or that cell reference, because then it becomes a circular reference, because it's actually TDC is a sum of all the costs here, and I'm pulling in some costs here as a percentage. So as a percentage of TDC and of the items over here, so it actually gets a little complicated, and that's why I've left it as a manual entry. So you come down and you do a calculation based on this is this portion, DA, planning permit, and BA, and then this is the darker gray one, which is the construction portion. So you do your calculations here, and you know that okay, total interest costs are going to be 26,337, and then you come back up and you put in 26,337, and you leave it at that.
Yeah, that was the issue I had today. So it's
Um,
coming up as zero on the construction cost, but I didn't change the finance costs to reset it.
yeah,
Yeah,
all
so
good, all good, Craig. Everybody, Craig. Craig's one of my mentoring students from Brisbane, and Craig, you in the deal now?
yes, I'm just waiting for the lawyers to get back with the contract. My lawyers made a couple of errors. um, yeah, so it looks looking pretty good. So I've got the settlement to January the 31st now, so that's extended out a bit further, and I've got the purchase price down another 5,000, which isn't much, but it's better than nothing. And it's
Yeah.
a six unit development in Brisbane, so should be good, exciting,
So
very nerve wracking.
fantastic, Craig, and congratulations.
Thank you. Looking for my next deal now.
Actually, Craig, I want to do a deal in Brisbane too. I'll have a chat with you later about that.
Okay.
Okay, dog.
Sounds
I'm
good.
gonna unmute you, Craig. Say good night to everybody.
All right. See you later. Bye.
Okay. Anybody wants to raise their hand, and I can unmute you, and you can ask a question. Okay, we have a question here. What is the council in Ringwood? Any idea about their turnaround time? Um, about 9 to 12 months. The council over there are nothing special. They are like any other council. But if you're not pushing the boundaries too much, you're not trying to pack on more units on a block of land, you should be all right. But I would say about 9 to 12 months is the standard in Melbourne. If you're in Melbourne, that's what it is. If you're in Brisbane, I think it's about 6 to 9 months. Usually, I think so. But I mean, I got my permit in about 6 7 months maybe. But it took a while to get everything else satisfied after the permit was issued. But up to the permit in Melbourne is about 9 to 12 months, and if you get in about 6 7 months, fantastic. You've been very lucky. Um, Anybody else who would like to say something or contribute? Bob, would you like to say something? Bob's not replying. Okay, if you've got any more questions, then fire away. Otherwise, I will bid good night to everybody. Guys, I'm actually, if you send me an email and it takes me a while to reply, I apologize in advance because my mom's not doing well and she had a major surgery and I've got to travel overseas. I'm actually going overseas on Friday, which is day after tomorrow, and I'll be back on 1st of May, which is a Sunday, which is the next Sunday, I think. So, and I'll go there as a 37-year-old, and by the time I'll be back, I'll be 38 years old because it's my birthday next Friday. And you guys can send me a happy birthday email if you like, but I would appreciate that. And yeah, do send me an email if you got queries or not. And my mentoring students, I'm still available on email. I might not be able to pick up the phone, but if you call me for something that was code red and you really wanted to speak to me, I will make sure that I call you, because I think India is about 4.5 hours behind the Australian time, and so even if you call me around in the morning or send me a message, um, let's say about 9 o'clock in the morning, by the time I wake up and everything is good, I should be able to return your call by midday. So feel free to give me a call if you guys have to. I will be available, but yeah, if it's urgent. So all the best, everybody. Good night, and the guys who are looking for projects in Ringwood. That's why I picked Ringwood for tonight's webinar, so you guys could see what's available. And what I will do is I've already put this together. If somebody wants a copy of this, I'm happy to share their email, and I can give them the viewing rights to the uh, to the basically to this map that I've just created. So if you do want me to send this map to you, I have no problem sharing this with anybody. They can have a look at Ringwood, and just shoot me an email that you want me to share this with you, and I'll share it with you. So all the best, and I'll catch you next time. Thank you so much, Ruth, and please too. Okay. Thank you so much, Bob, and thanks so much, Clive, and thank you, everybody, and I will see you next time.